There comes a moment in everyone's life when the outside noise feels deafening, but the real war happens in silence, deep within. For Max, it wasn't clients or deadlines that drained him. It was the constant voice whispering, "You're not enough." That kind of enemy has no face, but it knows all your weak spots. And the worst part? Max started realizing how a single thought could poison his entire day without a single word spoken aloud. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt small without anyone saying anything? That's your inner enemy taking control. Musashi once said, "You must see your enemy as already defeated." So Max wondered, what if he turned that lens inward? What if fear and doubt were not truths but illusions? Ghosts that could be named and seen for what they really were. A small shift began to change everything. Whenever fear rose, Max labeled it. This is fear of rejection. This is perfectionism. Giving it a name weakened its grip. It was like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, it had nowhere to hide. What used to control him now stood exposed. That alone gave Max an edge he never had before. There was a time when Max believed silence meant weakness, that if someone crossed the line, you had to react. Louder, sharper, stronger. But after losing peace over petty arguments, he saw the cost. Not every fire deserves your oxygen. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful move you can make. In that space, you don't lose control, you reclaim it. He started practicing something simple but radical: the pause. That brief moment between impulse and action, between insult and response. In that pause, Max found something unexpected: freedom. Musashi once taught that timing, not force, wins battles. And in that gap between reaction and silence, Max was finally in command of himself. One day, someone mocked Max publicly, just to provoke him. The old Max would have snapped. But this time he paused, looked them in the eyes, and said nothing. That silence was louder than any comeback. And for the first time, Max didn't just appear calm, he felt untouchable. He had finally learned. Stillness is a kind of armor. Max thought control came from the mind, but under pressure it was his body that betrayed him. Clenched fists, shallow breath, racing heart. His body entered the fight before he could even think. That's when he learned. Before commanding thoughts, you must calm the body. And the breath is the gateway. Breath is the bridge between chaos and composure. He began using a simple breathing technique. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold again. This kept him anchored, like stone in a storm. Instead of reacting, he could observe. He didn't lose his edge. He sharpened it in silence. Breath wasn't just survival, it became his weapon. Each inhale was a choice to remain present. There was a morning when chaos knocked early. Max spilled coffee, missed his train, and got a scolding text, all before 8 a.m. The old Max would have unraveled. But now, with breath and awareness, he remained still. The storm outside no longer stirred the storm within, and that shift didn't happen by accident. It came from training like a warrior preparing for war. Max used to wait for chaos to test his control. He thought discipline would just show up when needed. But real warriors don't wait for strength, they train for it. Every calm reaction begins long before the conflict. So Max began sharpening his strength every morning. No phone, no noise, just 5 minutes of silence and breath. A ritual that shaped him. At first it felt pointless, too quiet to matter. But slowly something shifted. The world's noise started to echo less inside him. Traffic no longer irritated. Rude comments were just comments. He wasn't shrinking anymore. He was expanding inward. That morning ritual wasn't just a habit, it was armor. Because a trained mind doesn't panic. It prepares. Max thought his enemies were out there. The colleague who interrupted him, the boss who overlooked him. But the deeper he went, the clearer it became. It wasn't them. It was the voice inside, begging for approval. That voice, the ego, demanded applause to feel alive. It wanted to be right, to be seen, to win. But Musashi had already warned about this trap. Musashi wrote, "Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world." Max didn't understand it at first. But then he realized, the ego makes everything about you. It twists feedback into insult. It turns silence into rejection. But when Max let go of needing to prove himself, he became everything he once chased: capable, focused, grounded. In stillness, he stopped needing to prove he was right, or strong, or smart. He just became those things, silently. And that silence, it echoed louder than any argument. But something deeper still waited. A power hidden not in grand moves, but in small moments. In simplicity. The most overlooked principle in a noisy world. The key to mastering yourself. Max once believed power came from complexity, routines, strategies, debates. But the more he tried to control life, the more tangled he felt. Until one quiet morning, sitting in stillness, he realized the most powerful truths are simple, like breathing, like walking slowly, like saying less. Musashi didn't win with flashy moves, he won with mastery of the basics. Max saw this everywhere. A deep breath could stop a fight. A pause could change the tone of a room. Simplicity wasn't weakness. It was strength, sharpened to the essentials. So Max stopped overthinking. He started noticing the sound of his steps, the pause before speaking, the weight of a glance. These weren't small things. They were everything. Max used to fight everywhere, in traffic, at work, at home. Every disagreement felt like a battle he had to win. But then, he learned one of Musashi's greatest lessons. The warrior does not fight forever. The samurai studied the terrain before the fight, the timing, the weather. Sometimes he waited days for the right moment. Max began doing the same. When tension rose, he paused and asked, "Is this the right battlefield?" He realized most arguments were just pride in disguise, words said to wound, not heal. So Max began to retreat, not in fear, but in wisdom. He learned, real power doesn't shout, it listens. Real strength doesn't react, it watches. And that shift changed everything. Because calm is not the absence of conflict, it's the power to navigate it with clarity, discipline, and presence. Musashi didn't win because he was stronger. He won because he was quieter, more centered, already victorious before the battle began. The world still shouted, but inside Max there was silence. Not empty, but focused. So now the question turns to you. What kind of warrior are you becoming? You can keep reacting, keep fighting, letting the world pull your strings. Or you can train, quietly, breathing, preparing. Because the real battlefield is inside. And now I challenge you. What inner battle are you facing today? Comment below. Your honesty might spark someone else's silence. And if you're ready to keep sharpening your inner blade, subscribe to the channel. If you know someone who keeps losing control in the heat of the moment, share this video. Because a shared vision can save 100 unnecessary battles. Let's train together.